And good morning, everyone. This is Mike Verkofcan. Welcome to our initial edition of a show we're going to debut here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now, and it's called Mic'd Up. Get the name Mic'd Up. If you follow me on Twitter and some of my social media reaction, you know that I'm a person that likes to have opinions. I'm not afraid to share them. But sometimes Pittsburgh Sports Now isn't the best place for me as far as Twitter to get those out. So I figured this might be an outlet for me to do that. And first of all, before I tell you a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about here every morning, I want to thank the sponsor of Mic'd Up, and that's my friend Doug Martin and Martin Lawn Care. Great guy. Professional, but more importantly, he's good at what he does. Doug is taking care of things around my house. That's why I know him. I can give you a personal vouch for his work. He does lawn care, landscaping, concrete walls, driveways, retaining walls, patios, decks. Summer's going to be coming around. So if you want to get your house fixed up for a good price, we're still spending a lot of time at our house. Give Doug and his team of many workers a call. They can give you a bid, check it out, but I know he will be very fair with the price, but more importantly, he'll do a great job and you'll love his work. You see all the information on it, you get a hold of Doug, and I want to thank Doug Martin personally for sponsoring our segment here, Mic'd Up, which we're going to do. It's the first thing you're going to see every morning. There might be an occasion or two where we don't have something on in the morning, but those are going to be few and far between. And this will be the first thing. You'll get up 7 a.m. We'll see these on Pittsburgh Sports Now. And I'm just going to give my opinion on little topics that are happening throughout the coverage map that we have on Pittsburgh Sports Now, as well as get over to some topics that I don't normally talk about anymore because I don't have the outlet to do so. And those are the Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, anything else going on in the world of sports. I'm going to give an opinion on if I feel like doing so. Today, first show, we're going to keep it to what I normally cover, and that's Pitt Sports, and I'm going to throw something out about Duquesne. First take is last night Pitt lost another game, 65-62 to NC State. That's 8 of 9 games. Not surprising they lost. I was a little more surprised the fact that they were able to hang in there with a obviously depleted roster without Xavier Johnson, Adis Toney, John Hughley. Their season is pretty much over with. They have 2 more games plus the ACC tournament. Record now is 9-10, 5-9. You know, we know all that. The issue now is moving ahead. If anything, I wish they had a few more games because we saw a little bit today. The biggest thing I took from yesterday's game was the play of point guard Femi Odokali. He was Pitt's leading scorer. He's going to be Pitt's point guard of the future, or at least going to be in their rotation depending on what Jeff Capel decides to add in the offseason. That's how I want to see the last remaining part of the season because that's how Pitt's going to build this thing back up. Noah Collier got some playing time. William Jeffers got in there. But that's what they need. They need these guys. I wish they had more. They only have 3 more games left, and they're going to be playing the bulk of the minutes like they did today. And they got to see. I wish those guys would have gotten more down the stretch, as well as Nike Sabandi, so we could have made a real evaluation. Obviously, Capo and his staff see him in practice, and they know more about the situation than we do as to why he didn't play. But I'm sure if he thought he could help him, he would have played. But he didn't, and so we're going to go into the offseason with Pitt. A lot of question marks and a lot of availabilities. Right now, they have 3 open scholarships, probably going to be 4 with Hughley, and then you just don't know who's going to return that's on the roster. meaning Sabandi, could decide to come back if he so chooses to. Who knows? Maybe he didn't have a good experience here. Maybe Capel's going to tell him what his role will be next year, and he feels maybe it'll benefit him. I'd kind of like him to see him return. Who knows if he'll decide to do so. Gerald Drumgo is a guy that actually got into the game today for the first time in I don't know how long. He's a guy that if you look at the situation, I guess it would be 50-50 as to whether he wants to return or not. Despite being a pretty highly rated recruit for Pitt, he hasn't done much in 2 years since he's been here. And if you look at guys that this is, once again, my opinion, I don't know anything, but I would guess that he's a guy that might want to look elsewhere if he doesn't believe he's going to get the opportunity to play here. I could see that, as well as another guy on the roster. So Pitt could have 5 or 6 scholarships they need to fill, and that doesn't even count Justin Champagnie. And that's the big domino of this whole thing. And as to whether or not what next season will look like, I think a lot's going to depend on what Champagnie decides to do. I know Capel wants him back. Is he going to go to take the shot of going to the NBA? Personally, I don't know that's such a good move for him. I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion, and I could very well be proven wrong. However, I just don't know how well his game is going to translate to the NBA. I'm not saying Champagnie isn't a good player. He's obviously a really good college player, but we see a lot of good college players. Does he have the skill? Does he have a game that's going to translate to the NBA? I don't know if that's the case. I would right now. I think he needs to be more consistent with an outside shot. If he's going to have a career in the NBA, that has to be a must. Another thing is I think he can work on his ball handling, create his own shots. A lot of the offense for Champagnie comes on kickouts from his teammates, and he has open shots. Is he going to get that in the NBA? I don't know. And his defense isn't NBA caliber. I'm just saying those are just some critiques of what I've seen for him for 2 years. I don't know that Justin Champagnie is ready for the NBA right now. We'll see what he decides to do. But if he leaves, next year, we'll make an evaluation after all the transfers he gets in and recruits and stuff. But I'm sure Jeff Capel will do whatever he can to keep Justin Champagnie and talk to him about what's best for him. And if Jeff Capel thinks that he's going to be if he's guaranteed to be a first-round pick, he's going to tell him to go. He's going to do what's best for the kid. But if he honestly believes that he can improve his game and get better at Pitt next season, he'll advise him to come back. And if I'm talking to Champagnie, I tell him he needs to come back to college for another year and improve on some things. One guy, I'm going to throw this out there for recruiting, Efton Reed. He's a guy that a lot of people still bring up with Pitt. I know Pitt has been recruiting him. Big center. He originally from Virginia. He's down in IMG Academy. For what I'm hearing, I know people are speculating, can Pitt get him? He's the center they need. For what I'm hearing that Efton Reed's future could be in the NBA. He could be a guy that goes from high school straight to the NBA. So keep an eye on that. That's a little birdie telling me a little information there that he hasn't declared that yet. I know Pitt and Ohio State are in on him, as well as all the other major schools. But I believe, as what I'm hearing right now, his future could be in the NBA. Let me switch over to Duquesne here for a couple minutes. Duquesne, big win 2 nights ago over Rhode Island. 8-8, 7-7. They're going to move into the A10 tournament as an 8 or 9 seed. But I don't think that matters. I know this season Duquesne probably dealt with things as much as any team around here as far as COVID-19. Stops, starts, games canceled, moved around. But I think it's not what they expected, but I take a lot of positive marks from Duquesne's season. I really do. And I think it didn't get a lot of play. I know Pitt's recruiting class got more attention. They get higher star players. But I'll tell you what, I like the recruiting class that Keith Dambrot and his staff brought in this season. I think he has a heck of a future rotation of players on the bluff, led by Chad Baker. I said this on Twitter yesterday, and I believe it. I believe of all the freshmen that played in college basketball this season, Pitt, Robert Morris, Duquesne, Chad Baker's the best player. Is he going to be the best player 3-4 years from now? Don't know. But as for what I've seen this season, I have no question that Chad Baker is the best freshman. And I think he has a chance to be a really, really, really good player. He needs to keep his emotions in check. I know technical fouls have been an issue for him, but that guy got game. He creates his own shot. He shoots from three well. He can drive. He has length, and he has no fear. The guy has no fear. He's a freshman, but if you looked at him and you had no idea what he was, he looks like an upperclassman. He does not play like a freshman, and I'm really, really high on Chad Baker. And then you have other guys: Toby Okani, Tyson Akuf, Andre Harris. Those guys are good players, and this was supposed to be Duquesne's best recruiting class. It's not nationally ranked. Those are not the type of players that Keith Dambrot gets at Duquesne. But those are guys that I think are going to be really productive starting next season. And like Pitt, I think a big key for Keith Dambrot next season is if he is somehow able to keep Marcus Weathers or Mike Hughes on the bluff. Those guys are all going to have a chance. They're graduated. However, they have a chance to return next season because of the unprecedented circumstances of COVID. Will they decide to take advantage of an extra season and return to Duquesne? If Keith Dambrot can get one of those guys, two's probably out of the question. If he can get either of those two to be his big man in the middle next season or down low, I think Duquesne could. They have a brighter future next year, put it this way, than Pitt does, and I think they'll be in the upper half of the Atlantic 10 next season. But he needs one of those guys to come back, and I think a lot of that, who knows, could depend on the type of money they can make over in Europe, and what their pro prospects are. I think Marcus Weathers, if I had to pick one or the other, I'd really like to see Marcus Weathers return. I think he is a really good player. I don't know, he could have a role in the NBA, but so is Hughes, just for his defense and his rebounding. To play in the NBA, you need to do, I've always been told, you need to do one thing really, really well to keep your spot on that team. And I think Mike Hughes, with his defensive presence and his way he's able to guard the rim, I think he's a guy that could hang on a roster for a little bit. But we'll see. Duquesne also needs to add a point guard. We'll see if Tavian Dunn-Martin returns. Those are probably going to be the biggest holes for Duquesne in the offseason. Another big man and a point guard. One other thing before we leave here is the job that I've been trying to point it out in Pittsburgh Sports Now as much as I can, but the impression that I'm getting early on with Brennan Marion at Pitt is I know a lot of people, myself included, were really worried when Chris Beatty left Pitt, thinking there goes their ace recruiter. This guy, he turned into, him and Charlie Partridge were Pitt's best recruiters. That was bad for Pitt. However, Pat Narduzzi's done a hell of a job recruiting assistant coaches to Pitt in the last few years. and it looks as though he's done another job with that. Marion, some of these guys he's going after, we've never seen this before with Pitt. I know their fan base wants them to go after big-time players, marquee 4 or 5-star players from all over. That's exactly what they're doing. I've chronicled it on the website the last few days. He's offered players from, in the last 3 days, 4-star players from Indiana, California, Texas, Utah, California. If you notice, something I kept saying in that was California, and it looks as though Pitt is trying to make another recruiting territory, and that would be in the state of California. They've done so in Georgia, Virginia, a little bit so in Texas. They tried to. That's a very hard place to try to recruit when you're dealing with 3 Power 5 programs. But it looks as though they're trying to use Marion's contacts and time out on the West Coast and just his recruiting skills in general. California is a big place. It's like Florida as far as getting talent of. There's a lot of it. Big state, a lot of talent, and I think Pitt is trying to do that. We'll see if he's successful. They're making a play at it. We'll see if they're able to. Once again, that's going to do it for this first. We're going to start your day with this every morning here on Pittsburgh Sports Now, mic'd up. Once again, sponsored by my friend Doug Martin and Martin Lawn Services. See all the information behind me. Later on today on the website, I'm going to have a couple interviews with a couple of these players that Marion offered, plus an interesting interview with a 4-star recruit that has Pitt as a finalist, and I think Pitt has a real shot to get him. Could be an impact player. That'll all be on Pittsburgh Sports Now. This is our first edition of Mic'd Up. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday morning, for another edition. Till then, so long, everyone.